Hey folks, JD here, and today we're back out with the SGRC F11, but there's a reason. So other than I just want to fly it, I get asked loads of questions, and if one stands out to me, then I will always try and answer it. Sometimes in a comment, or sometimes in a video. Today I've decided to make a video. So I get asked a hell of a lot. When these quads first came out, the 5G capable quads, I got asked a load of questions. Some questions like, to give you some example, how can I have 5G enabled phone when 5G isn't enabled in the UK? 5G isn't enabled in the US, Canada the same. How can I get this to work with my smartphone? Quite simply, what you have to do, you have to have a 5G. Now, it's not on about cellular network, it's on about Wi-Fi network. So you have to have a 5G capable phone when it comes to Wi-Fi network, okay? So a standard Wi-Fi works as 2.4 gigahertz, has done for years, and then a few years ago they decided to introduce the 5G network for things like quadcopters. Now, the whole point of it was to give you increased reach of FPV, to give you better stabilized footage, and to give you footage which relays back to your device in a smooth and clean way. So let me show you with two devices I've got in front of me here what happens if you have one which is enabled, which is my iPhone 8, and if I have one which is not 5G enabled, which is my Honor 10 Lite. So let's open up both. What I'm going to do first is turn on the quadcopter. So when we turn that on, I'm going to bind it to my transmitter as standard. So turn on the transmitter, single one up and one down to bind, leave that do its thing. Now I'm going to go into settings of my Honor 10 Lite. There we go, onto Wi-Fi, and I'm going to do the same on my iPhone. Now you'll notice on my iPhone my Wi-Fi is off. Now that is because, as my iPhone is a 5G enabled smartphone, as soon as I turn on the Wi-Fi, it'll bind straight away. But I want to show you beforehand what happens to a non-5G enabled device, such as my Honor 10 Lite. So if I turn that off and turn it back on, you'll notice there's going to be no SSIDs popping up in there. There's no broadcasting 2.4 gigahertz networks that I can connect to with this smartphone because I'm stuck in the middle of a field, right? So there's nothing there for it to connect to whatsoever. It's not picking up the SGRC, nothing at all, okay? So now, with that in mind, if I turn on my iPhone, you'll see it find the SSID, which it has, and you'll see it bind to it. That is because you need a 5G enabled smartphone, which is what my iPhone 8 is. So there we go. Even now, nothing, right? So what I'll do, put my Honor 10 back in my pocket for a second. It'll fly. And then, oh, let me just pop that away. There we go. And what we're going to do now is just attach this particular phone to the transmitter, take the quadcopter up, and talk a little bit more about this 5G network. So it's not the end of the world if your smartphone is not 5G capable, because there are still a lot of quadcopters out there which require the 2.4 gigahertz band. So, oh, go on, stop playing video. There we go. So, but it is going to be the end of the world if you want it to work with, say, the F11, or if you want it to work with the MJX X104G, or if you want it to work with some of the Vizio products as well. So what I'm going to do is start these motors. Come on, there we go, and then we're going to take her up. Beautiful. So with 5G, I'm going to keep this in low speed as well. There we go. So with 5G, what you're going to notice is you are going to have increased range when it comes to video and when it comes to FPV relay. So give you an example, with 2.4 gigahertz in the field we usually fly in, I can get at about 100 meters at a push, and that is quite literally line of sight, no obstructions, not weather like today where there's atmospherics taking place, just a very, very, very clear, peaceful, nice weather day. Now, if I then take 5G on the same weather conditions, I can almost double that. I can get to 150, 200 meters without there being any problem whatsoever. That gives me full FPV, likewise, you know, in this fashion. Now, we're not going to see that today because, quite honestly, this particular quad is not going to leave my sight, you know, so I'm not going to really put this to the test here. But you can see it in other videos. Any video that has 5G in it, you can see me do it in there. So with 5G, what you get is you get better battery consumption. Even that, well, that's what they state. They state better battery consumption because it's a more efficient way. You haven't got the constant reconnects and disconnects as you do with 2.4. But at the same time, you are don't be disillusioned. You are going to be using power from your smartphone and more power from it because you are constantly relaying video back to it. So when I say that, what sort of impact does that have on your phone? Well, my device goes from being 100% when I tether it to a smart device, when I tether it to a quadcopter rather in the field, goes from 100% after flying a whole morning of flying 3 or 4 5G quads. I can easily expect that to get down to 70, maybe even 60%, which isn't the end of the world for me. Go home, plug it in, charge it again as I'm downloading my images and my videos, ready to edit the videos that I put up on here. So with 2.4, that would probably, if I was doing the same with 3 quads, then you'd be looking at pretty much about 80%. So the reduction in battery is quite high. So if you have got a phone which is 5G but the battery's on its way out, you're probably going to notice worse power consumption there as well. But one thing that stands out to me is you do get this really nice crystal clear and very nice smooth video. So you don't get much lag. You don't have, even if you do get a bit of lag, then it could be atmospherics around you. It's not always down to the module within the quadcopter. Sometimes with the very cheap quads, yes it is. But if you are looking at always having lag in your particular area, A, it could be your area, B, it could be your phone. So there's a lot of factors that actually come into that to give you a nice clear picture and a nice smooth FPV relay back to your device. Now, what I am noticing as well with 5G, as the more and more that I use it with all these other quads that I buy, I am noticing that I'm having a much easier time connecting, and I'm having a much easier time in finding the SSID. Sometimes you used to have occasional dropouts with 2.4, you don't get that anymore with 5, or at least that's my experience with it anyway. Now, going on, what do I think? Should you upgrade your phone to a 5? To a phone which is capable of 5G, or should you stay with 2.4? Well, there's a couple of ways to look at this, isn't there? If you are like me, you're going to be coming out every single weekend, come rain or shine, and you're going to be flying these little things, and you're going to be having them, you know, you're going to be buying quite a few of them in a month, then I would say it's probably worth your while in taking the leap to 5G, because it's here. It isn't going away. It is showing itself to be a much better medium for FPV relay and a much better medium when it comes to quadcopter flying. So more manufacturers are going to use it. If you just want to have a little look at my timeline of videos, if you go back a year, you would see the odd 1 or 2. Now, within the last, say, 2 months, I've had 4 or 5. So they are increasing, and they are going to keep on increasing. Now, if you've just taken out a phone contract with 2.4, don't worry. It's not the end of the world, because more and more quads are going to be coming out, but they're going to better the technology as time goes on. So when you are up for your next upgrade, then you can always take the leap. Now, chances are, if you have had an upgrade in the last year to 2 years, then your phone is already 5G enabled. So therefore, you're not going to have much of an issue in connecting to any of your quads. But what I would say is certainly think about it before you do go for your next phone. But it's not only phones that have the 5G capable Wi-Fi module, it's also tablets as well. Don't forget, my Huawei Media Pad, my 7-inch tablet that I use, that itself cost me £50 from Amazon. That's 5G enabled. You know, so you have got other options there if you wanted to keep the current phone that you're using, but if you did want to go with, but if you did want to have that 5G capability, then you could always look at a tablet as well. But also bear in mind, if you do go with a tablet, then you are going to have some issues, like with this, in trying to fit it into these small FPV booms here, because they don't fit tablets. So what I'm doing is 3D printing out a load of different FPV booms for myself, and that way then I'm getting around the sort of tablet issue that I have. But still, it is something that is going to stay. The 5G frequency isn't going anywhere. It is going to be more prevalent as time goes on in a lot more of these quads, especially in quads, but you're also going to see it in cars as well. Now, if you're talking about DJI, what DJI use is something a little bit different. A lot of their, well, I'd say pretty much most, from what I've seen and from what I've read, of their particular quads are all 2.4 gigahertz. But what they do is they actually need your phone to connect to your transmitter, and then your transmitter then amplifies the frequency back out to your particular quad. So it is a frequency adjuster, sort of like 2.4, but it is also DJI's technology on top of that to give you your seamlessly smooth FPV that we've all come to know and love with DJI quads. So with that, a very basic phone will do. I've tried mine when I had a DJI quad, and I tried it with an extremely basic phone, and it worked flawlessly. So to be honest with that, unless anything's altered in the last 6 months I don't know about, it's quite easy to say that if you have got a DJI quad, chances are you're going to be all right. Not any problem whatsoever there. Pretty much the same goes with Unique and Parrot from what I've seen with the quads and the planes that I have certainly tested. So there we have it. So 5G is here to stay. If you don't have it, then it's not really the end of the world at this particular time. But as time goes on, when you do buy your next smartphone or do buy your next tablet, chances are you are going to have it as standard, as it is becoming standard on more of the flagship phones. Now, if like me, when I bought my Android device, I just bought an Android device that I liked and that I wanted. That was a little bit, which wasn't a budget phone. I wanted something a little bit higher spec than that, so I went for the Honor 10 Lite, because that in itself does provide what I want. But also I do have a couple of other Android devices, so for me it's not really the end of the world, because I can just shift between a couple of Android devices and, you know, I can get the 5G capability that I require out of 2 or at least 3 out of my 4 or 5 Android devices that I have. And likewise with my iPhone, I have about 4 or 5 different iPhones, so I don't have an issue there either. So for me, it's not really the end of the world, because I have so many devices that support it. But if you don't have a device that supports it, and if you do want it, then I would look at certainly getting something that does actually support it, because in time you are going to need it if you're planning on flying more of these. So there we are, friends. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's actually answered a couple of questions as well. Hit me up in the comments and let me know. Right, I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks ever so much for watching and listening. I've been JD, you've been fantastic as always. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and ring that bell too. Hello and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope you're enjoying the channel. So until next time, my friends, happy flying.